Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Diplomat's Desk. I am your host Meet Shah. So let's talk about the China infrastructure projects today. China just crossed 50,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. It's pushing ultra-high voltage power line across deserts and even building underwater data centers powered by wind. If you are sitting in New Delhi and Mumbai, this isn't a distant headline. It decides where global cargo moves, which contractors win billion-dollar projects, and ultimately who sets tomorrow's infrastructure standards. Let's break this down and see what it means for India. Let's talk first about the high-speed rail. China now operates around 45 to 50,000 kilometers of high-speed railway, the largest network on earth, and plans to reach 60,000 kilometers by 2030. It's not just trains, it's faster labor mobility, tighter supply chains, and even domestic tourism running on rails. Second, ultra-high voltage power grids. Lines like the Zundong-Wanan 1100 kilovolt direct current transmission line have already delivered over 300 billion kilowatt hours of electricity since 2019. These lines move renewable energy from the far west to the coastal factories, reducing transmission losses and cutting carbon emissions. Third, the new frontier digital infrastructures. China's East Data West Computing Plan, known locally as Shubei Suandong, has created around 1.5 to 2 million server racks in national data center clusters. That's over $6 billion of investment just in computing capacity. And here's the big innovation headline. China launched the world's first wind-powered underwater data centers off the coast of Shanghai, a 24 megawatt installation with a power usage effectiveness PUE ratio of 1.15. That means it uses energy more efficiently than almost any on land. Finally, financing. China's 2025 budget allocates 4.4 trillion renminbi, that's roughly 600 billion US dollars, in local government special bonds aimed mostly at infrastructures. Even with a property slowdown, this keeps cranes moving and workers paid. Now let's go global to China's Belt and Road Initiatives or BRI. In 2025, it has evolved from mega projects to what Beijing calls small, green, and beautiful. That means more focus on sustainability and technology, less on debt heavy highways. In just the first half of these years, China signed around $66 billion in construction contracts and invested another 57 billion across about 150 countries. Example, the Laos China Railway has already moved over 67 million tons of freight, a success story connecting ASEAN markets to Chinese factories. In contrast, Indonesia's Jakarta Bandung high speed rail, branded Whoosh, become operational but faced cost overruns and ridership gaps. It's a reminder that the model doesn't always translate perfectly. So China's port strategy is also expanding. In Greece, COSCO Shipping owns 67% of the port of Piraeus, now one of the Europe's fastest growing container terminals. And in Gwadar, Pakistan, new 5-year plans tie the port directly to the airport and special economic zones, a continuing belt and road flagship. The takeaway is China is still the default turnkey builder and financier for railway and ports across Asia and Africa, even as the global scrutiny around debt and dependency grows. So now let's look at the impact on India and where countries might prefer China over India and why. Let's take the railways. China can deliver an entire high-speed rail package, civil works, signaling, rolling stock, operations, even financing. India's Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train built with Japanese assistance is progressing but still not finished. Until India builds a complete project, many nations default to Chinese vendors' solution. From India, Japan, Europe consortia that blend safety standard with low-cost financing. Second, power transmission. China's ultra-high voltage or UHV technology allows it to export renewable power efficiently. For emerging markets, that's irresistible. India, meanwhile, excels in high voltage direct current or HVDC, but needs international reference projects, say grid links with the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) nations to compete globally. Three, data centers. Those underwater energy efficient Chinese data centers could appeal to African and Southeast Asian countries wanting fast, cheap, and digital capacity. India can counter this by pairing 24 by 7 renewable energy with trusted vendor ecosystems and stronger data protection laws. Four, port and logistics. With ownership stakes in places like Porios, China offers full stack logistics, shipping, port management, and digital yard automation. For India to compete, we need faster clearances, sovereign risk insurance, and stronger participation from private Indian port operators. So now if you want to know how India is responding and where it is already making a real impact, go check out my detailed video on India's infrastructure projects. There's we break down how the progress India is making across logistics, renewable energy and manufacturing and global connectivity. You don't want to miss that one. So now let's talk about how can India respond smartly. First, tie finance to projects. Create an India Infrastructure Export Facility, bringing together Exim Bank, the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund (NIIF), and multilateral banks to match China's concessional funding model. Second, export rail in a box. Package India's Vande Bharat train technology, signaling systems, depot operations, and training for markets in Africa and Southeast Asia. 3. Build green data center clusters powered entirely by renewable energy as an alternative to Chinese built systems. 4. Focus on corridors we control, from the dedicated freight corridors to Sagarmala and Chhavar, while keeping the India Middle East Europe corridor initiative diplomatically alive. 5. Pursue UHV light wins, regional HVDC interconnections with the Gulf region to prove our technical credibility. So now, for example, if China builds X, who prefers them over India and why? So let's talk that if China builds a full high-speed rail systems, countries wanting speed and easy financing pick China, India can counter with joint ventures. If China builds ultra-high voltage transmission lines, energy-rich regions choose them for scale. India must build pilot interties to show reliability. If China builds automated ports, coastal nations might prefer their turnkey offer. India's answer: faster approvals and stronger private partnerships. If China builds low energy data centers, emerging economies could choose them for cost. India's edge is green power plus trusted technology. So the bottom line is China's infrastructure machine is a mix of steel, silicon, and state finance. India doesn't have to copy it, we just have to out compete where it matters with reliability, clean energy, transparent governance, and smart funding. Because when we do that, the trade routes and the global boardrooms will tilt in our way. So, if you like this analysis and found this insightful, hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.